This week, we remember Pope John XXIII. The Holy See and Israel are closer to an agreement on church status in that country, and the plight of migrants is front and center at the Vatican. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Vatican Connections. There's been a lot going on, so let's find out what's been happening. This Monday was the 50th anniversary of the death of Blessed Pope John XXIII. Of course, his greatest legacy is calling the Second Vatican Council. Catholic News Service brings us this exclusive interview with Archbishop Loris Capovilla, who was in his youth the personal secretary of Pope John XXIII.
Io ho 97 anni, va bene? E allora conosco Papa Giovanni dal 1935. Il 2 novembre 1958, cioè 5 giorni dopo la elezione, il cardinale Ernesto Ruffini, come tutti i cardinali, a turno è andato in udienza dal Papa. Ha detto abbiamo parecchi problemi, situazioni difficili, sia di carattere religioso, storico, diplomatico. E nella carta delle udienze il Papa scrive la parola per la prima volta, concilio. Anche altri vescovi, tutti portavano vari temi, molti erano per la riforma liturgica dei seminari, della disciplina del clero, problemi non dottrinari ma pastorali. Passano 20 giorni, mi dice sul mio tavolo si accumulano problemi, domande, richieste, speranze, ci vorrebbe proprio un concilio. E io ho taciuto. Dice, mi sono chiesto perché il mio segretario gli faccio una confidenza una volta, una seconda volta, non dice nulla. No, ma io so perché tu hai fatto questo. Tu hai pensato, è vecchio? No, sì, ma poi ti sei preoccupato. E tu hai fatto con buona intenzione, cioè è vecchio, ma si mette un pasticcio di questo, in questo compito così enorme. Non avrai il tempo, perché tu, se ragioni come un commendatore, un delegato di banca, non è mica così che si ragiona con la fede. Ricevere una buona ispirazione e guardarla con ammirazione e dire oh quanto mi piacerebbe, è già un grande merito. Se poi Dio ti concedesse di trovare con l'aiuto dei collaboratori che ti incoraggia ad andare avanti, meglio ancora. E se tu cominciassi anche solo con la commissione antepreparatoria, è già un grande merito. Se tu muori e viene un altro e dice, grande onore anche solo cominciare. Ma perché Papa Giovanni ha fatto il concilio? Papa Giovanni, parlando con il suo segretario di Stato, ha detto, guardi che dopo la Seconda Guerra Mondiale è molto bello che siano sorti 3 istituti internazionali e sono nati in America. L'ONU per la pace, la FAO per il pane, l'UNESCO per la cultura. Io sono il Papa, non ricevo sempre, si fanno congressi di filosofia, di letteratura, di commercio, perché non ci troviamo anche noi insieme a parlare? Avrebbe ripetuto questo, come ha detto all'inizio del concilio, no? L'ha detto, entriamo in concilio con il patrimonio della tradizione da Nicea sino al concilio di Trento e il Vaticano I. L'ha detto chiaro questo, cosa doveva dire di più? Proprio perché era un grande conservatore, ha potuto portare al mondo un messaggio di amore, di speranza e di fiducia.
To mark the anniversary of John XXIII's death, a group of pilgrims from Bergamo made a pilgrimage to the Vatican. Bergamo is the late Pope's home province, and Pope Francis stopped by after the Mass that they celebrated in the Basilica to pray at his predecessor's tomb, and then he took the time to say a few words about the famous Pope.
Angelo Roncalli era un uomo capace di trasmettere pace. Una pace naturale, serena, cordiale. Una pace che con la sua elezione al pontificato si manifestò al mondo intero.
Although he's remembered for calling the Second Vatican Council and for his diplomatic career with the Holy See, John XXIII was really, at heart, a simple man from humble origins. CNS gives us this look at his hometown.
In questo paese, io sono 23 anni che sono qui, a me questa gente fa l'impressione che sono un po' rozzi, se vuole, no? Non sono complimentosi, laboriosi, il lavoro è il lavoro. L'inclinazione è veramente verso la bontà, la laboriosità e l'onestà. I Roncalli tra parenti saranno più di 200 qui. Il mio medico è un pronipote di Papa Giovanni e questo, gli dico sempre Fabrizio, assomigli tutto a Papa Giovanni.
On November 25, 1881, Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli, the future Blessed John XXIII, was born in the village of Sotto il Monte, Italy, about 25 miles northeast of Milan. Angelo was the fourth of 13 children in a family of sharecroppers. When he was still a toddler, they moved to a nearby property which they later purchased, and which remains in the Roncalli family to this day. On the day he was born, Angelo was taken to be baptized in nearby St. Mary's Church. Here, almost 23 years later, the newly ordained Father Angelo said his first Mass. St. Mary's has been the place where we grew in the love of the Lord, Blessed John later recalled. In this church we laid the foundation that led us to the highest ministry. After a distinguished career as a Vatican diplomat and Patriarch of Venice, Cardinal Roncalli was elected Pope on October 28, 1958. He never visited his hometown again, but willed that his birthplace become the site of a seminary for missionaries. Today, the seminary complex includes a chapel with relics of the late Pope, who was beatified in the year 2000, and rooms full of votive offerings from those who have had prayers answered, thanks to the intercession of Blessed John. Pilgrims and tourists can also visit a museum housed in a mansion on property once belonging to the Roncalli family. Among the exhibits here are personal objects and vestments of Blessed John, and the bed where he died on June 3, 1963. The curator of the collection is Archbishop Loris Capovilla, the late Pope's former secretary, who today, at the age of 96, continues to serve as the chief custodian of Blessed John's legacy.
Dice, vengo dalla campagna, dalla povertà, povertà contenta e benedetta, non maledetta, non subita, contenta e benedetta. Scrive una volta da Parigi, dice, sono in questa grande Parigi dove tutto stupisce, tutto è grande e bello, però tutti i giorni penso ai miei fratelli o nipoti con la schiena scoperta, piegati sui solchi a irrorare la terra col loro sudore. Scrive un suo fratello, Giuseppino, ricordatelo, non è la nobiltà dei natali, conte, marchese, o la ricchezza che fa degna una persona, ma la laboriosità, l'onestà e il Vangelo conosciuto e praticato.
A story that very quietly made the wires this week was that of another prelate who is on the road to sainthood. Vietnamese Cardinal Van Tuan died in 2002 while he was the head of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace. He had been imprisoned in his native Vietnam, yet throughout his incarceration, secretly celebrated Mass in his cell. The diocesan phase of his cause for sainthood will officially be closed on July 5th, and a positio, or a summary of his life, character, and Christian virtues, will be handed over to the Vatican's Congregation for the Causes of Saints. Of course, at Salt and Light, we have a special interest in Cardinal Van Tuan's sainthood cause. In 2009, we produced the documentary film Road of Hope about his life. And Cardinal Van Tuan is not the only person moving closer to sainthood. On Tuesday, Pope Francis approved the recognition of the martyrdom of 95 people killed during the Spanish Civil War. Pope Francis also approved the recognition of the heroic virtues of 4 other people, including an auxiliary bishop from Portugal, 2 Italian priests, and the foundress of the Teresian Carmelites of St. Joseph from Spain. The Pontifical Council for the Pastoral Care of Migrants and Itinerant Peoples wrapped up their annual general meeting this past week. They also released a new document in collaboration with the Pontifical Council Cor Unum, which is the Church's charity arm. The document is called Welcoming Christ in the Refugee and the Forced Migrant, and we'll have more on that document and the work of the Council just a little later in the program. But the head of one international organization for migrants spoke to CNS about how close Pope Francis is to the plight of migrants.
If you hear what the Holy Father has said, and the fact that the first thing that he said was, "I have come from the ends of the earth," and he himself, Francis, is a migrant, and his parents were migrants, and you have therefore Italian parents leaving Italy to go to Argentina and their son coming back as Pope. That's not a bad scenario, but most scenarios are not that good, and he has therefore, however, a special understanding, much like Christ himself had, because in the early days of his youth, he was a refugee. And so that's the theological basis on which all of our work stands and that we are informed by.
Turning our gaze southward to Rio de Janeiro, we learned this week that Pope Francis will hear the confession of 5 young people during World Youth Day. 5 names were selected by random draw from the names of those already registered for the event. Pope Francis will hear the confessions of 3 men and 2 women. 3 of these young people are Brazilian, 1 is from Venezuela, and 1 is from Italy. And Father Arnaldo Rodriguez from the Pastoral Department of World Youth Day said the draw was done based on languages spoken, not country of origin. Just like in Madrid, confessionals are being built. These were designed by the Spanish designer Ignacio de Ozono and are inspired by the view of Corcovado Mountain. The Permanent Working Commission between the Holy See and the State of Israel issued a statement on Thursday saying the latest meeting took place Wednesday, June 5th at the Vatican and significant progress was made. Both sides have agreed to accelerate negotiations in order to expedite a conclusion in the near future. The Bilateral Working Commission has been in talks since 1999 to work out an agreement on the financial and legal status of church property in Israel. Did you know? Although it is not mentioned in the official Vatican biography of the Pope, reports say Angelo Roncalli received his red beretta from French President Vincent Auriol. As we mentioned earlier in the program, the Pontifical Council for the Pastoral Care of Migrants and Itinerant People wrapped up their plenary assembly this week and also issued a new document called Meeting Christ in the Refugee and Forced Migrants about the specific pastoral needs these people face. Now, Bishop Joseph Kalathimparambil is the secretary for the Pontifical Council, and he speaks to us about this document and the work of the Council. Bishop Joseph, thank you so much for making time for us. not a lot of people know about the Council, so if you could tell us first about the work that the Pontifical Council does.
The Pontifical Council, for the pastoral care of migrants and itinerant people, is a dicastery of the Holy See, responsible to help the Holy Father to promote and look after the pastoral care of the people on the move. These people, because of their life condition, are very far away from the ordinary pastoral care of their parishes. I'm talking about immigrants, refugees, foreign students, seafarers and fishermen, nomads and circus people, the world of tourism and pilgrimages, of civil aviation and of the street. Pontifical Council takes care of these various sectors.
So you've just released this document in conjunction with the Pontifical Council Cor Unum. Can you tell us about this document? What are some of the key points in this?
As you know, the international scenario in the last 20 years has been witnessing increasing movements of people from one country to another or within countries themselves. We are talking about migrants that with difficulty move voluntarily for work. Then we find refugees forced to leave their homes as a result of coercion, threats and persecution. The dimensions of this phenomenon become unprecedented. Just think that in the world, the number of international migrants is about 210 million. Our Pontifical Council, in collaboration with the Pontifical Council Cor Unum, has just published, as you mentioned, a new document, Welcoming Christ in Refugees and Forcibly Displaced Persons, which describes this reality of forced migration, defends the principle of human dignity and the rights of these people violated in many countries, such as the right to asylum and access to work, and condemns the quasi-imprisonment condition in many refugee camps. Indeed, pastoral guidelines are provided, and it is also suggested the protection of other groups of people, like displaced persons, stateless persons, and victims of all forms of trafficking.
Finally, a lot of people listening to this perhaps want to get involved. How can the average layperson get involved in supporting refugees and migrants? Are there organizations that they can go to?
We must praise especially the organizations working in this field, like Jesuit Refugee Service, the network of Jesuit order active in more than 50 countries, which plays an irreplaceable role on behalf of forced migrants. Then Caritas offices are also active in emergency situations, supplying food and water. There is also the International Catholic Migration Commission that works very well for advocacy at international level. So probably these people could get in touch with one of these organizations and get involved in the pastoral service to the migrants and refugees. And in fact, in North America, there are parishes, probably some individuals who are sponsoring the migrants and refugees coming to the USA and Canada and, helping them to integrate with the community.
That's great. And we'll put up links to those organizations on our website as well. Thank you so much, Bishop, for making time for us this week. It was a busy week for Pope Francis at the Vatican. He had many meetings with heads of state and ambassadors from around the world. On Monday, he met with the president of Cape Verde, Jorge de Almeida Fonseca. On Wednesday, he met the Prime Minister of Iraq and his delegation. And on Thursday, Pope Francis accepted the credentials of the Iranian ambassador to the Holy See, while on Friday, it was the Armenian ambassador presenting his credentials. And finally, on Saturday, he was scheduled to have a meeting with the Italian head of state, President Giorgio Napolitano. Pope Francis also met His Beatitude Nerses Bedros XIX, Patriarch of the Armenian Catholic Church, and the Pope met with a group of students from the Pontifical Ecclesiastical Academy this week. Now, the Ecclesiastical Academy trains priests for service in the Holy See's diplomatic corps. He told the men they must cultivate a deep spiritual life in order to attain the inner freedom that is necessary for their future work. Again, he denounced careerism in the Church, calling it a leprosy, and he warned the future diplomats against ambition, offering them John XXIII as a model of what a Vatican diplomat should be. He said John XXIII guarded his soul even in the most varied ecclesiastical and political occupations. The Pope's general audience on Wednesday coincided with World Environment Day, and this was part of his catechesis.
The following is a summary of the Holy Father's words this morning. Our audience today coincides with World Environment Day, and so it is fitting to reflect on our responsibility to cultivate and care for the earth in accordance with God's command. We are called not only to respect the natural environment, but also to show respect for and solidarity with all the members of our human family. These two dimensions, natural ecology and human ecology, are closely related. Today we are suffering from a crisis which is not only about the just management of economic resources, it is also about respect for human resources, for the needs of our brothers and sisters living in extreme poverty, and especially for the many children in our world who lack adequate education, health care, and nutrition. Consumerism and a culture of waste led some of us to tolerate the waste of precious resources, including food, while others are literally wasting away from hunger. I ask all of you to reflect on this grave ethical problem in a spirit of solidarity grounded in our common responsibility for the earth and for all our brothers and sisters in the human family.
This week, we got a question from Margaret, who asked us, can Pope Francis speak the English language? Well, you're not the only person asking that question, Margaret. The short answer is no, not really. But the long answer, well, the first biography the Vatican released said he spoke English in addition to Spanish, Italian, German, and French. Now, in a book-length interview published in 2010 by Argentine journalists Sergio Rubin and Francesca Ambrogetti, Cardinal Bergoglio said the one language that gives him problems is English. Why? Well, because he's tone deaf and he can't get the intonation required by the English language. But he also told the same journalists that he gets by in Italian. And the two journalists later found out that his Italian is actually quite fluent. Similarly, despite the fact that he says English is a problem for him, we recently heard Pope Francis speaking a bit of English during a meeting with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. While the two men were exchanging gifts, we could hear Pope Francis say, "This is for you," showing Ban Ki-moon a mosaic that featured the panorama of Rome. He also added, "It is Rome. It is of Rome. From Rome." And then he switched to Italian right away. So, in short, the Pope may be able to speak some basic English, but he doesn't feel comfortable with the language, and we probably won't hear him speaking it anytime soon at public audiences. Vatican Connections is interactive. Send us your questions or comments by Facebook, Twitter, email, or post. Via email, send comments to info@saltandlighttv.org, and by post, send letters to 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, Canada. Now, last week we had the creation of a new diocese in Africa and several South American appointments. This week, the various church tribunals or courts are getting new officials. The Roman Rota, which is the highest appellate tribunal in the church, has a new defender of the bond. Father Michele Fiorentino has been working as a secretary in the prefecture of the papal household until now, so this is a promotion if ever there was one. The Ecclesiastical Tribunal of Vatican City State has 3 new members. Franciscan Father Donald Kos, who is originally from the U.S., becomes judicial vicar for the tribunal. Monsignor Antonio Nicolai becomes a judge for the same tribunal. And the Scalabrini father, Luigi Sabarese, becomes defender of the bond for the tribunal and the interim promoter of justice, or chief prosecutor. Meanwhile, Monsignor Sławomir Oder becomes judicial vicar for the Tribunal of the Vicariate of Rome. Now, if his name sounds familiar, it's because he is also the postulator of the sainthood cause for John Paul II. And finally, this week, we wrap up with a look at the Roman coffee bars, where you can often find shrines to the popes past and present.
Allora abbiamo il locale nelle vicinanze di San Pietro, mi sembrava giusto avere una collezione dei nostri papi, per esempio Giovanni Paolo II, Papa Ratzinger e Papa Francesco, le new entry. E sopra, dato che era l'ultimo Papa, l'ultimo arrivato, mi sembrava giusto che stava in alto.
The people here is like they do a nice walking and they can choose between a nice coffee and the rosary. Like decoration, we have some postcard around, some rosary, some books I said before. This is the new book of Papa Francesco, Ratzinger and Papa Giovanni.
Sono molto religiosa, così mi piace il Papa, quello lì, mi piacciono quelli, tutti i papi. Papa Francesco, Giovanni XXIII e quell'altro che è morto, come si chiama?
Giovanni Paolo II.
Giovanni Paolo II.
Re perché io sono giordano, cioè tengo alla mia nazionalità. Naturalmente le cose care mettiamo vicini, sia al re sia al Papa, giustamente. A prescindere che io sono musulmano, io sono credente alla mia religione, però vedendo anche un Papa come il Papa Giovanni è tanto da rispettare, giustamente l'abbiamo voluto bene, vogliamo la sua foto che è anche il nostro ristorante naturalmente.
In this way Papa Francesco is in every house of our tourists. This new Pope given some new fresh air, like fresh air for the tourists.
That's it for this week's edition of Vatican Connections. Join us next week when we will bring you more details on the Pope's summer schedule, including where he'll be staying. Now, until then, follow us on Twitter at Vaticonnections or watch our blog for full texts of papal homilies and speeches. From everyone here, thanks for watching and see you next time.